The Two Houses of Becoming by Ru of House of Keperu. You know, one of the greatest misunderstandings about Kemet is believing the temples and the pyramids were separate achievements. They were never competing monuments. They were complementary sciences, two halves of one complete teaching. One taught you how to live. The other taught you how to continue beyond this life. And perhaps the first step in recovering that wisdom is recovering their original Ren. They were not merely temples. They were Per Neter, the house of the Neter, or Per Ankh, the house of life. They were not passive places of worship. They were living schools of transformation, schools of Ma'at, schools of observation, schools of healing, schools of initiation. Schools that taught you to read nature before believing stories. Walk through Per Neter, and the architecture itself becomes the teacher. Light moves, therefore time moves. Seasons return, therefore order repeats. Nature remains in rhythm, therefore the human being must learn to align, not dominate. The lesson of the House of Life was simple. Live correctly within creation. Learn how to eat. Learn how to speak. Learn how to govern your emotions. Learn how to govern your desires. Learn how to treat others. Learn how to live in harmony with Ma'at. Then there was the structure the world now calls the pyramid, but the ancestors knew it as the Mer, and its horizon principle as the Akhet. It was not a public monument. It was not merely a tomb. It was a precision science dedicated to continuity, refinement, and becoming beyond the limitations of the physical body. The Mer teaches a different lesson. Geometry aligned with the cosmos, stone aligned with the stars, harmonic proportion, silence, darkness, ascent. Everything designed for one purpose, to refine consciousness and prepare the Ka, the Ba, and the Ak for continuity. The House of Life prepared you for living. The Mer prepared you for becoming beyond living. One governed existence. The other governed continuity. You could not skip one. A person who never learned Ma'at could not simply walk into the Mer expecting transcendence. You first had to master life before preparing for what lies beyond it. That is why the House of Life came first. That is why the Mer was rare. One served the many. The other prepared the ready. Somewhere along the journey, much of this understanding was forgotten. Houses of transformation became places of passive worship. Precision sciences became monuments. Operational knowledge became stories. Observation gave way to unquestioned belief. But the stones still speak. They have been speaking for thousands of years. They still teach rhythm. They still teach order. They still teach proportion. They still teach alignment to anyone willing to observe instead of merely looking. And perhaps that is why this wisdom matters now more than ever. Modern society teaches you how to consume, how to compete, how to survive, how to work until you die. But Kemet asked a deeper question. Have you learned how to align? Have you learned how to observe? Have you learned how to transform? Have you learned how to continue consciously? So let your daily life become your Per Ankh. Let every meal become an act of Ma'at. Let every word become an act of discipline. Let every relationship become an act of reciprocity. Let every sunrise become your teacher. Let every season remind you that existence itself never stops becoming. Then let your inner silence become your Mer. Detach from illusion. Refine your consciousness. Strengthen your Ka. Clarify your Ba. Illuminate your Ak. For the ancestors left us one final lesson carved not merely into stone, but into the very rhythm of life itself. You do not ascend properly if you never learned how to live properly. Live in alignment. Become beyond the body. Keperu and Ma'at. Ashe.